Hello, everybody. So, back to Romeo and Juliet. Hopefully, everybody's doing okay during this time. Um, we are going to cover scenes 5 and 6 today of Act 2. They're pretty short scenes, so I'm going to go ahead and just cover them both in one video, and we're going to move on. So, covering where we've been so far in scene or Act 2. Romeo and Juliet have met. They have professed their love to each other. They've decided to get married. Romeo tells the nurse that later that day, tell Juliet to be able to get out of the house, to go to confession, go to Friar Lawrence's cell. Friar Lawrence is going to marry them. Friar Lawrence, of course, is going to do this not because he thinks it's a good idea. He actually doesn't believe Romeo at all and thinks it's a terrible idea. But he believes that it can stop the war between the two houses. So, because of that, he's going to help them. And that's where we pick up today. So, the nurse has still not made it back. Juliet is waiting on her own at the beginning of scene 5. And that's where we're going to go now. So, let's go ahead and do that. Okay. So just a reminder, our play opens on Sunday morning. Romeo and Juliet meet Sunday night. Act 2, Scene 4 took place, 3 and 4 took place on Monday morning. Now we're around Monday afternoon. So Juliet says, "The clock struck 9 when I did send the nurse. In half an hour she promised to return. Perchance she cannot meet him. That's not so. Oh, she is lame. Love's herald should be thoughts which 10 times faster glide than the sun's beams, driving back shadows over luring hills. Therefore do nimble pinioned doves draw love, and therefore hath the wind swift Cupid wings. Now is the sun upon the highmost hill of the day's journey, and from 9 till 12 is 3 long hours, yet she is not come. Had she affections and warm youthful blood, she would be as swift in motion as a ball. My words would bandy her to my sweet love, and his to me. But old folks, many fain as they were dead, unwieldy, slow, heavy, and pale as lead." So it's been 3 hours. It's noon. We can hear that now. Let's see. Now is the sun upon the highmost hill of this day's journey, highest in the sun or sky. And from 9 till 12 is 3 long hours, and yet she has not come. So she's been there for 3 hours, and Juliet's getting impatient. She's like, nurse promised to return in half an hour. It's been 3 hours. So she's like, well, maybe she couldn't meet him. Maybe she didn't find him. And she's like, that's not slow. Or that's not so. She says she is lame. So it's kind of means she's slow. Lame is another way of being like hobbled or crippled. So if she's lame, she's walking slow. Love's herald should be thoughts which 10 times faster glide than the sun's beams, driving back shadows over luring hills. So she's like, the messengers of love should be thoughts. The thoughts are 10 times faster than the speed of light. So that's what should happen. And if she were young, if the nurse were young, she'd be swift in motion. She would be fast. Her words would get her to Romeo very quickly, and his would get her back to Juliet very quickly. But old folks, it's almost like they're already dead. They're sluggish, they're fat, they're colorless. So in comes the nurse and Peter. "Oh God, she comes. Oh, honey nurse, what news? Hast thou met with him? Send thy man away." So she's like, "Oh, thank God." Peter, stay at the gate. Peter leaves. Now, good sweet nurse. O Lord, why look'st thou sad? Though news be sad, yet tell them merrily. If good, thou shamest the music of sweet news by playing it to me with so sour a face. So she's like, oh God, why do you look so sad? Even if the news is sad, at least tell me with a smile, because if the news is good, then you're shaming that good news by telling it to me with such a bad look on your face. The nurse says, I am weary. Give me leave a while. Fie, how my bones ache. What a jaunt have I? So she's like, leave me alone. I'm tired. My bones hurt. I've been running all over the place. Juliet said, I would thou hadst my bones and I thy news. Nay, come, I pray thee, speak. Good nurse, speak. So, she's like, I wish you had my bones and I had your news. So please, just, I'm praying, I'm begging you, speak. Nurse says, Jesu, what haste. Can you not stay a while? Do you not see that I'm out of breath? So the nurse is like, calm down. You're in such a hurry. Wait a minute. I'm out of breath. Juliet says, how art thou out of breath when thou hast breath to say to me that thou art out of breath? The excuse that thou dost make in this delay is longer than the tale that thou dost excuse. Is that news good or bad? Answer to that. Say either, and I'll stay the circumstance. Let me be satisfied. It's good or bad. So she's like, how can you sit there and say you're out of breath when you have the breath to tell me you're out of breath? The excuses you're making are like delaying this longer than the news you actually have to tell me. So finally she's like, is it good news or bad news? God, if you just tell me if it's good news or bad news, I'll calm down for a little while. And the nurse says, well, you have made a simple choice. You know not how to choose a man. Romeo? No, not he. Though his face be better than any man's. Yet his leg excels all man's, and for a hand and a foot and a body, though they be not to be talked on, yet they are past compare. He's not the flower of courtesy, but I'll warrant him as gentle as a lamb. Go thy ways, wench, serve God. What, have you dined at home? So Scott's like, well, you've made a bad choice. You've made a stupid choice. You've made a simple choice. You don't know how to choose a man. Romeo? No, not him. Even though his face is more handsome than any man's face, his legs are prettier, and his hands and his feet and his body, even though they're not much to speak of, though they not be talked on. So it's like, even though they're not much to speak of, they're past compare. So even though they're not that great, they're better than anybody else's. He's not the flower of courtesy, but I'll warn him as gentle as a lamb. So he's not the most polite man, but he's gentle. So it's like, go thy ways, wench, serve God. So it's like, what else do you want? Go be good. Have you eaten lunch yet? No, no. But all this I did know before. What says he of our marriage? What of that? So she's like, I knew all this. Like, what did he say about marriage? Lord, how my head aches. What a head have I. It beats as if it would fall in 20 pieces. My back of the other side. Ah, my back, my back. Beshrew your heart for sending me about to catch my death with jaunting up and down. So she's like, oh, my head hurts. Oh, it's pounding. It feels like it's going to break into 20 pieces. And my back hurts too. And Juliet's like rubbing her back. And she's like, no, the other side. And like, she's like, curse you, beshrew your heart. It's like, curse you for sending me out running around to do all this. Juliet says, faith, I am sorry that thou art not well. Sweet, sweet, sweet nurse, tell me, what says my love? She's like, I'm sorry you're in pain, but please, what did Romeo say? And the nurse says, your love says, like an honest gentleman, and a courteous, and a kind, and a handsome, and a word of virtuous. Where's your mother? So she's changing the subject. The nurse is playing with Juliet. So she's like, your love says, like an honorable man, like a handsome man, a courteous and kind. Where's your mother at? Where is my mother? Why, she's within. Where should she be? How oddly thou repliest. Your love says, like an honest gentleman, where is your mother? So she's like, where's my mom? She's in the house. Where else should she be? You're talking so weird. And she quotes, she's like putting the words back in. She's like, Romeo said, your love says, like an honest gentleman, where's your mother? The nurse is kind of aggravated now. It's like, oh, gods, dear lady, are you so hot? Mary, come up, I trow. Is this the poultice for my aching bones? Henceforward do your messages yourself. So she's like, you're this impatient? You're being ridiculous. This is how you take care of my aching bones? From now on, take care of all this crap yourself. Juliet says, here's such a coil. Come, what says Romeo? She's like, you're making too much of a fuss. What did Romeo say? Nurse says, do you have leave to go to shrift today? She's like, do you have permission to go to confession, to go to church? Juliet says, I have. The nurse says, then hie you hence to Friar Lawrence's cell. There stays you a husband to make you a wife. Now come the wanton blood up to your cheeks. They'll be in scarlet straight at any news. Hie you to church. I must another way to fetch a ladder, by the which your love must climb a bird's nest soon when it is dark. I am the drudge and toil in your delight, but you shall bear the burden soon at night. Go, out to dinner, hie you to the cell. So she says, then go, hurry up, go to Friar Lawrence's cell. There stays Romeo to make you his wife. And of course, she starts to blush. Juliet starts to blush. So Romeo, or the nurse says, now comes the wanton blood to your cheeks. They'll be scarlet straight at any news. So it's like, now you're blushing. And they would have done that no matter what I said. So she goes, you go to church. I've got to go another way to fetch a ladder. Remember what the ladder's for. By the which your love must climb a bird's nest soon when it is dark. So it's like, I've got to go get the ladder so Romeo can climb up to your room tonight. I'm the drudge and toil in your delight. So I've got to do all the work for your pleasure. But you shall bear the burden soon at night. So it's like, I've got to do all the work now, but you're going to be doing all the work tonight. So it's like, go, I'm going to lunch. You go to Friar Lawrence's. And of course, Juliet's happy. High to high fortune, honest nurse, farewell. So she's like, wish me luck. Thank you, nurse. Juliet leaves to go get married. So that's going to take us to scene 6. So when we come into scene 6, we start with Friar Lawrence and Romeo together. Friar Lawrence says, so smile the heavens upon this holy act, that after hours with sorrow chide us not. So he says, hopefully the heavens smile on this act, on this holy act, them being married, so that afterwards we don't get brought down with sorrow. Now, this is what we call foreshadowing. We've had this happen a couple times. Romeo said that in Act 1, Scene 4, before they go to the party, Romeo says that tonight's events are going to put in motion something that is going to end with his untimely death. Now, Friar Lawrence is saying, hopefully the gods in heaven, well, not the gods, he's a monk, so he would just be God. So hopefully God is going to smile on this act so that we don't have anything to feel sorry about later down the line. So Romeo says, amen, amen. But come what sorrow can, it cannot countervail the exchange of joy that one short minute gives me in her sight. Do thou but close our hands with holy words, then then love devouring death do what he dare. It is enough I may but call her mine. So he says, amen, but you know what? Sorrow can come. Sorrow cannot hurt, cannot go against the joy that I feel in 1 minute of seeing her. All you have to do is close our hands in marriage, and then death can do whatever it wants. It's enough that I get to call her mine. Friar Lawrence says, these violent delights have violent ends, and in their triumph die, like fire and powder, which as they kiss consume. The sweetest honey is loathsome in his own deliciousness, and in the taste confounds the appetite. Therefore, love moderately. Long love doth so, too swift arrives, as tardy as too slow. So, Friar Lawrence is giving him caution. Friar Lawrence is saying, sudden joys, these violent delights, have violent ends. Sudden joy has sudden endings. And in the triumph, in victory, they can burn up like gunpowder and fire, which when they kiss, when they meet, when gunpowder and fire come together, they consume. So, since they explode, but also they consume each other. Like the gunpowder goes away after it is lit on fire, and the fire is blown out in the explosion. So these two things come together violently, and then both cease to exist. The sweetest honey is loathsome in its own deliciousness, and in the taste confounds the appetite. So it's like even the sweetest honey can be so sweet it makes you sick to its stomach, or to your stomach. Therefore, love moderately. He's like, love each other in moderation. Long love doth so. He's like, true love is moderate. True love is not super, super all passion. Calm it down. Too swift arrives as tardy as too slow. He's like, taking things too fast can be just as bad as going too slow. Juliet comes running in. She hugs Romeo, and Friar Lawrence says, here comes the lady. Oh, so light a foot that will ne'er wear out an everlasting flint. A lover may bestride the gossamer that idles in the wanton summer air, and yet not fall. So light is vanity. So, our translation here comes the lady. A footstep as light as hers will never endure the rocky road of life. Lovers are so light that they can walk a spider web floating on a summer breeze and not fall. He's like, these two are like, she's walking in the clouds. You know, her happiness is making it to where she's not even walking on the ground. Juliet says, good evening to my ghostly confessor. So she's like, ghostly confessor, spiritual being ghostly. He's a priest. So good evening. Friar Lawrence says, Romeo shall thank thee, daughter, for us both. So it's like Romeo has enough thanks for both of us. So Juliet says, as much to him, else in his thanks too much. So it's like, I thank him even more, or even as much, so we're even. Romeo says, ah, Juliet, if the measure of thy joy be heaped like mine, and that thy skill be more to blazon it than sweeten with my breath this neighbor air, and let rich music's tongue unfold the imagined happiness that both receive in either by this dear encounter. So he says, basically, if you're as happy as I am and you're better with words than I am, you tell me about the happiness that you imagine we'll have. And Juliet says, conceit more rich in manners than in words, brags of his substance, not of ornament. They are but beggars and can count their worth. But my true love is grown to such excess, I cannot sum up some of half my wealth. So she's kind of saying, like, I have more on my mind than words. Anybody can count how much he has, even when they're poor. But my true love has made me so rich, I can't even count half of it. I cannot sum up some of half my wealth. Friar Lawrence says, come with me, and we'll make short work. For by your leaves you shall not stay alone till Holy Church incorporate two into one. So he's like, come on, come with me, and we'll make this quick. We'll make short work. And then he says, for by your leaves, you shall not stay alone till Holy Church incorporate two into one. He's like, because I'm not leaving you two alone until you're married. And they exit. They go on to get married. Now, the actual marriage ceremony does not happen in the play. It doesn't happen on screen. The next scene that we come into, Act 1 or Act 3, Scene 1, they will be married. So, this again, time frame. They met Sunday night. They are married by Monday afternoon. They've known each other less than 24 hours. And now they're married. Romeo's 18, she is 13. So, all right, let's go from there to your work for today. So, give me just a second. Okay. So you should have this here. Now, one thing I want to show y'all, because I've had some emails, this, when it's seen like this, it can be kind of far zoomed out. If you go here to view and zoom, you can zoom in and out. Like if you take it even to 200, that's going to make it a little bit closer. So some of y'all that are having trouble reading this, make certain that you go to view and zoom. So because if you go to, like, let's say I have this on normal, and then you go over here and try to zoom, it can still be hard to read. It's not very easy to read. So if you're having trouble, make certain you go over here to view and zoom. So you got 2 pages with this one because this is the end of Act 2. So some quick stuff here. Let's go ahead and zoom in. Scene 5, scene 6. Tell me very quickly what happens. Why is she feeling anxious? Give me some figurative language. So when it talks about this section right here, we're looking for lines 1 through 19 in scene or Act 2, scene 5. So if you go to our table of contents, Act 2, scene 5, you're basically talking about all this right here, Juliet's first section of speech. So that's what it's talking about here. So things like simile. Remember, simile is when we compare two things using like or as. So there we go there. Scene 5. What makes scene 5 humorous? It's meant to be funny. Remember, one of our main characters in it is the nurse. The nurse is a comic relief character. She's meant to be funny. So that's what we've got here. These violent delights have violent ends, and we have some stuff about Romeo and Juliet getting married. So there we go there. The second page here, some bigger questions. So Mercutio and Romeo have different views of love. Whose do you agree with more? In what ways do you agree or disagree with Juliet's thoughts of names and identity, as explored in Act 2, Scene 2? So this is the a rose by any other name would smell as sweet if it were not such a rose called. So when she's saying that the name is not part of a thing, Romeo is not a Montague because a Montague isn't a thing. It's not a part of a body. So he can just change his name and still be the same person. So do you agree or disagree with that? Do you think Friar Lawrence and the nurse are wise to help these people plan their marriage? That's an interesting question. You've had Friar Lawrence is helping Romeo and he marries both of them. The nurse is helping Juliet. Do you think that it's smart of these two to help Romeo and Juliet? How does the family feud drive their actions? Like, what about the feud is actually making them act the way they are? When Romeo goes to the friar, with whom does the friar think he spent the night? And what does this indicate about Romeo's nature? So Friar Lawrence says, he's afraid that Romeo's been somewhere. And what does that say about Romeo, that's the Friar Lawrence's first reaction? Mercutio is neither a Montague or a Capulet. Why might that be important? and complete the following sentences. Even if you don't agree, try to think of reasons. So that's your assignment. That ends Act 2. Next week, I'll be back up with Act 3 videos, and we'll go from there. So hopefully everything's going well. If you see this in time, tomorrow, April 16th at noon, I'm going to be doing a Zoom meeting. I'm going to put the link and the password in Classroom. So if you're having any issues understanding, if you have any questions, please enter that and we'll go through, figure out what's going on. If you can't be in that, send me an email, kdalton@gilesk12.net, and let me know what's going on, and we'll get it taken care of. All right, that takes care of scene 2. We are 40% through the play. So we're pretty far through it. All right, everybody, take care. Have a great day.